My brother's wife was 8 months pregnant when he passed away. Michelle Moreau said she didn't want her child to be without a father. To repay my brother for saving my life, I became the child's father. Michelle Moreau loved her job, so I quit mine to be a full-time stay-at-home dad, taking care of them both day in and day out for 7 years. But she remained distant, only showing a hint of tenderness when she was beneath me. Afterwards, she would check to see if the condom had broken. On Christmas Eve, the condom accidentally broke. Michelle Moreau was furious and punished me by locking me on the open-air balcony in the rain. Her son hurried over with an umbrella, but coldly walked past me and handed it to the housekeeper who was leaving. At that moment, I decided to leave. On New Year's Day, I endured the discomfort of a high fever and weakness and handed her the divorce agreement. She frowned and asked unhappily, "Just because of last night's punishment?" "Ben Chandler, I wouldn't punish you if you didn't cross the line. You should always look for the reasons within yourself." I suppressed the urge to defend myself and said in a hoarse voice, "Just sign it." "What about our son? He's not my biological child anyway, so of course I won't fight for custody. But you don't need to give me any of your assets either. Consider it my contribution to his child support." Michelle Moreau looked up in surprise. No wonder, since I usually cherished this child the most. She threatened with a stern face, "I advise you to stop while you're ahead, or there will be no turning back." It seemed she believed my desire for divorce was just a tantrum. But what she didn't know was that from the moment I decided to divorce, I never planned to turn back. I didn't explain further and took the signed divorce agreement back to my room. Seeing me packing my luggage, Michelle Moreau said, "Ben Chandler, it will take some time to process the paperwork. You don't have to rush to move out." I calmly replied with words she had once used against me. "No, it's better to cut the knot quickly." She didn't say anything else. I had a lot of luggage, but I only took the essentials. When I dragged my suitcase out, Ethan Chow, later changed to Ethan Phillips, was in the living room reading a science journal. He was extremely disciplined at such a young age, just like his mother, and of course, just as cold towards me as she was. He put down his book, walked up to me, and said with a look of impatience, "Are you really getting a divorce from Mom?" I nodded. Although he was expressionless, I could still see the joy in the corner of his eyes. Then, he said to me in a tone of bestowal, "In the future, I'll allow you to come see me, but only once a month. I'm afraid Uncle Luke will be unhappy if you come too often." The Uncle Luke he was talking about was Michelle Moreau's first love, Luke Phillips. If the Phillips family hadn't had an accident and immigrated, Michelle Moreau probably wouldn't have married my brother. Luke Phillips had recently returned to the country, and the two had reconnected. She often took Ethan Chow to see Luke Phillips. Luke Phillips was a race car driver, and Ethan Chow thought he was very cool and amazing. But he didn't know that I had been the annual champion driver in CRC and CTCC for many years. He hated me and wouldn't even give me the chance to take him go-karting. I used to be sad because he liked Luke Phillips and didn't like me, but now my heart was as still as water. What happened last night had completely opened my eyes. A wolf cub is never truly tamed. I didn't even give him a glance and left. I was almost at the front door when Michelle Moreau came out. "What's the rush? You haven't even found a place to live yet." I didn't say anything and opened the door. "Where are you going?" "I'll have the driver take you." "No need." I had been drenched in the rain all night and was now burning all over, with a splitting headache. I dragged my body, ready to collapse at any moment, and used my last bit of strength to walk out the door. But after only a few steps, my vision went black and I fell down. I woke up again in the hospital. A passing Aunt Sarah had brought me there. The doctor said my condition was very serious and asked why I didn't have any family members with me. "I'm sorry, doctor, I don't have any family." The doctor instantly gave me a look of sympathy. I smiled wryly. Complete strangers could show me kindness, while the mother and son I had given my heart and soul to for 7 years could be so heartless. For the first time, I felt that these years had been a complete waste. After a few 4 drips, my fever subsided, and I left the hospital. I really wanted to take a spontaneous trip and completely relax. But life wasn't a TV show. I hadn't worked in years, and Michelle Moreau only gave me a small allowance for groceries. I hadn't saved much money. I stayed in a motel temporarily. The next day, I called my former boss at the TV station. Before I got married, I was the most popular host of the weather forecast program. Many leaders felt it was a pity when I decided to resign back then. But I was single-minded about Michelle Moreau and gave up my future. Back then, I was young and vigorous and really thought that sincerity could be exchanged for sincerity. It was a pity that it ended up like this. I hadn't faced the camera in 7 years, so I didn't have too much hope. Unexpectedly, the leader didn't say anything and directly arranged for me to meet with the station director. Although I had been busy taking care of them both all these years, I still made time to work out and kept my figure in good shape. Plus, my previous professional skills were outstanding. After a discussion, the leadership decided to give me another chance. I took my luggage and moved into the apartment that the station director had prepared for me and started a new life. After a week getting familiar with the work, I successfully returned to my position. On my first day back on stage, I broke the highest ratings record in the 7 years since I left. The station director was especially happy and held a celebration banquet for me. When a junior colleague offered me a toast, I subconsciously refused. Sorry, I don't drink. After I finished speaking, I remembered that it wasn't that I didn't drink, but that I had quit drinking because Michelle Moreau said she didn't like me drinking. Now that we were divorced, I didn't need to care about whether she liked me or not. I smiled and accepted. Just kidding, I can drink. With that, I raised my head and drank it all in one gulp. After a few rounds of drinks, I became a little drunk, and my phone rang. It was the police. Mr. Ben Chandler, your nephew has been found. I instantly sobered up and immediately took a cab to the police station. My eyes instantly turned red when I saw the little guy at the police station. They say that nephews are like their uncles, and it's absolutely true. This little guy was practically a miniature version of me. Sure enough, the police told me that after comparing genes with my sister Anna and brother-in-law Kevin, they confirmed that he was their missing son. Back then, Sister Anna took Cody to Central Park and turned around to buy him cotton candy, and he disappeared. Sister Anna blamed herself and was so sad that she had a mental breakdown. On the 10th day after the child was lost, she couldn't take it anymore and committed suicide. Having lost his wife and child one after another, brother-in-law Kevin aged 10 years overnight. He cried like a big baby. I really felt bad for him. Ethan Chow was only 3 years old at the time and was very attached to me. He would only stop crying when I held him. But unfortunately, in order to help brother-in-law Kevin find Cody, I had to grit my teeth and hand Ethan Chow over to his maternal grandmother. A month later, someone said they saw a child in a town who looked very similar. Brother-in-law Kevin rushed over, only to find that it wasn't even the same gender. Brother-in-law Kevin was heartbroken and accidentally fell into the river in a daze and drowned. Not long after, the police told me that human traffickers had taken the children to smuggle them to the United States, but the ship they were on had capsized and sunk. Everyone on board was killed, and your nephew should be among them. At this point, the clues were completely cut off, and I was only left with Michelle Moreau and Ethan Chow, my only remaining relatives. After taking care of things there, I went to my mother-in-law to pick up Ethan Chow. But I didn't expect that when Ethan Chow saw me, he would no longer call me Daddy in a milky voice. He didn't remember me anymore. Later, after he went to school and interacted with his classmates, he disliked me even more. He thought I wasn't as great as other dads and said I didn't have a proper job. The police's words pulled me back from my memories. It turned out that Cody was clever and hid in a trash can and successfully escaped. He didn't get on that ship. A homeless man picked him up and took him home, and the two of them had been living together all these years. Recently, that old man passed away, and someone found the child living alone and called the police. That's how he was found. Cody was dark, thin, and timid, which was really heartbreaking. I squatted down and touched his little head. Don't be afraid, I'm your uncle. He blinked his eyes, wondering what he was thinking. Baby, you'll never go hungry or cold again. You'll live with your uncle from now on. Brother-in-law Kevin was an orphan, so he didn't have any grandparents either. Now I was Cody's only relative in the world. I took Cody back to my home, cleaned him up, and put on new clothes. I held his little hand and realized that it was covered in frostbite. I took out the medicine kit and gently applied the ointment. And to him, the little guy was very tough. He was obviously in a lot of pain, but he didn't make a sound. I put on a cartoon for him, stay here for a while, and Uncle will cook you some noodles. When I finished cooking and went out to call him, I found that he had already fallen asleep without me knowing. I covered him with a blanket, and he woke up. He rubbed his eyes, looking dazed. I vaguely remembered Ethan Chow being especially clingy to me every time he woke up when he was little. He would hug my neck and be as slow and cute as a sloth. I couldn't help but hug Cody in my arms. Unlike Ethan Chow, he didn't hug my neck, but touched my face. I came back to my senses. Cody, I'm your uncle. From now on, you'll be with your uncle, and this will be our home. The little guy looked up at me, his eyes bright. Uncle? Then why aren't you daddy? Uncle is your mom's brother, not your dad. Do you want to see your mom and dad? He nodded, and I held him and showed him the old photos one by one and told him about them. After looking at the photos, he suddenly kissed me on the face and called out uncle in a milky voice. At that moment, I felt like I was melting. Cody was already old enough to go to school, but he hadn't gone to school yet, so I quickly contacted a kindergarten and sent him there. He was very adaptable and didn't cry and make a fuss like Ethan Chow did at first. Life was proceeding in an orderly manner, and Cody and I were getting closer and closer. I usually liked to make snacks. Cody ate the things that Ethan Chow disliked with relish. This day, I was making pumpkin balls for Cody when I received a call from Michelle Moreau. She seemed to have just woken up and asked me in a hoarse voice, "There's a mall opening tomorrow." I instinctively told her all about which dress to wear and which jewelry to match, and even said the exact number of the item in which closet. After I finished speaking, I fell silent. I realized that this seemed to have become a mecca. Nickel memory. Michelle Moreau didn't seem to be fully awake yet. I could hear her rummaging around in the receiver. There was no sound from the other end for a long time, so I reminded her, "I'm going to hang up if there's nothing else." She suddenly asked me if I wanted to go with her tomorrow. I found it ironic. Before, when I wanted her to take me to banquets, she never agreed. Now that we were divorced, what was the point of going? I'm not going, and don't call me anymore in the future. Whether you're looking for a stylist or a housekeeper, just don't look for me. We're divorced. I was about to hang up when I heard her change the subject. "I'm taking Ethan Chow to Midtown Plaza for swimming lessons today. You can come and see him." No need. After speaking, I didn't wait for her to say anything and hung up without hesitation. I put down my phone and continued to make pumpkin balls for Cody. Life continued peacefully. Until one day, when I came out of the broadcast studio, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Ethan Chow's head teacher at kindergarten. She said that today was Parent-Child Art Day and that parents needed to participate with their children, but all the parents had arrived except for Ethan Chow's. The teacher warmly invited me to come, but I interrupted her. I'm sorry, teacher, Michelle Moreau and I are divorced, and she has custody of him. I won't be taking care of these things anymore. The teacher was a little embarrassed, so I continued, is Ethan Chow next to you? After getting an affirmative answer from the teacher, I asked her to help turn on the speakerphone. In front of the entire class and all the parents, I said lightly, Ethan Chow, you confirmed last time that your mom and I are divorced. I'm not your dad anymore, and I won't be taking care of your things anymore. Don't call me again in the future. After speaking, I said sorry to the teacher and hung up the phone. After work, I went to the kindergarten to pick up Cody, and we went to eat at a fondue restaurant. The table next to us was celebrating a birthday. I suddenly thought of Cody's birthday and checked the calendar. It was this Sunday. On Sunday, I canceled all my work in advance to spend time with Cody. He probably hadn't had a birthday celebration in all these years. After ordering, I asked him to wait for me at the table while I went to get the cake. I was carrying the cake and walking towards the restaurant when I unexpectedly ran into Michelle Moreau. Luke Phillips was standing next to her. Luke Phillips was the first to speak. Aren't you two getting a divorce, Michelle? I ignored him and walked past them, but Michelle Moreau grabbed me. She said sarcastically, weren't you being all tough? I knew you wouldn't last a few days. Now you're shamelessly coming here with a cake to celebrate your son's birthday. Aren't you ashamed? I was speechless. Let go. Who said I was celebrating his birthday? Michelle Moreau froze. If you're not celebrating with your son, who are you celebrating with? I didn't want to argue with them any further. I don't want to say anymore. Let go. You three can have a good time together. Michelle Moreau's face darkened instantly. Ben Chandler, that's enough. Don't push me until I really get angry. I pushed her away and went into the restaurant. When Cody saw me, he smiled and waved at me, and I waved back at him. Ethan Chow was sitting at the table next to Cody's. He looked at me with disgust, obviously misunderstanding that I was waving at him. I ignored him and sat down next to Cody. Michelle Moreau and Luke Phillips came in and were shocked to see Cody and me. Ben Chandler, who is he? None of your business. Michelle Moreau was furious, but she held back in public. Cody and I were enjoying our meal without any distractions. When we were almost done eating, Cody wanted to go to the bathroom. I wanted to go with him, but he said no, so I didn't bother. I saw Ethan Chow also walking towards the bathroom. I figured he was going to the bathroom too, so I didn't think much of it. But a little while later, a waiter shouted, "Quick, who are the parents? Two kids are fighting here." I jumped up and ran towards the bathroom. Ethan Chow and Cody were lying on the ground, both with injuries. When Ethan Chow saw me, he finally couldn't hold back his tears and said with red eyes, "Dad, it hurts so much." Under his helpless and pitiful gaze, I squatted down without hesitation and held Cody in my arms. "Cody, are you okay? Did he hurt you?" I looked around to see if Cody was injured. Ethan Chow broke down and suddenly burst into tears. He hadn't cried much since he started kindergarten. But now he was looking at me and crying hysterically, looking really upset and miserable. If I had seen him like this before, I would have immediately squatted down, hugged him with heartache, and gently coaxed him, don't cry, Dad's here." But now I was indifferent, caring only about Cody. Cody obediently said that he was fine. "Uncle, he told me to stay away from you and said that you're his dad. Is that true?" I shook my head. "He's talking nonsense. Uncle's not his dad." After hearing this, Ethan Chow suddenly stopped crying and widened his eyes in shock. At this time, Michelle Moreau's voice came before she appeared. "TCH, still denying it. When you hear your son fighting, you still..." But she stopped halfway through her sentence. No wonder she heard the children fighting and was still so relaxed. It turned out that she had misunderstood and thought I would come to take care of Ethan Chow. She saw Ethan Chow standing alone in the corner while I was holding Cody in my arms and was shocked. With a face full of anger, she said, "Ben Chandler, your son is crying because he was beaten, and you're still holding someone else's son and comforting him." As she spoke, she reached out to pull Cody away, but I slapped her hand away. "We're already divorced. It's been made clear he's no longer my son. He's afraid that Uncle Luke will be sad, so he told me to see him less. Have you forgotten? I only have my nephew Cody now, not a son." I had accidentally overheard Ethan Chow talking to Luke Phillips on the phone. He said, "My dad is really annoying. I can't stand him anymore. Uncle Luke, I wish you were my dad. If Dad and Mom get divorced, will you marry my mom? I want you to be my dad." Now I was fulfilling his wish. He should be very happy, shouldn't he? I picked up Cody and was about to leave, but Luke Phillips stopped me. He said in a teacherly tone, "Ben, I have to say a few words to you. Ethan Chow is the son you raised with your own hands." "How can you say such things?" I sneered. "You're always stirring up trouble between us." "Do you think I don't know? Didn't you teach him to tell his mom to replace me as his dad? Anyway, he likes you more. Why don't you be his dad?" Michelle Moreau looked at Luke Phillips in shock, and Luke Phillips quickly denied it. "Michelle, don't listen to his nonsense." I was too lazy to waste my breath on them and left a sentence, "I wish you three a happy and fulfilling life." After speaking, I carried Cody and left. A week later, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered it, I realized it was Ethan Chow. His voice was a little choked up. "Dad, you have the wrong number. I'm not your dad." The other end suddenly started sobbing, so it seemed he was crying. "Dad, it hurts so much. My arm is injured." My heart suddenly skipped a beat, and I reached out and hung up the phone. I was afraid that if I listened for another second, I would subconsciously soften. He was the child I had wholeheartedly cared for 6 years, the biological blood of my good brother. Back then, when my brother and I were trapped in an earthquake, my brother sacrificed himself to give me a chance to live. I had always loved Ethan Chow as if he were my own child. Looking at him was like seeing my good brother still alive. He was really clingy to me when he was little. When he was learning to speak, the first word he said was Dad. Michelle Moreau would cry whenever she held him when he was little. He would only stop crying and stay quietly in my arms, which was very cute. Sending him to his maternal grandmother's home was a turning point. After that, he stopped being clingy to me. He didn't pester me to sleep with me at night anymore and wanted Michelle Moreau to put him to sleep instead. At this moment, his fragile and soft voice made those sealed memories gush out like a spring. "Uncle, why are you crying?" Cody used his little hand to wipe away my tears, and I realized that my eyes were actually wet. It was a good thing I had Cody. The little guy had a very sweet mouth and was very sensible, which could heal all my negative emotions. Before long, Michelle Moreau called, but I didn't answer. She kept calling, so I had to blacklist her number. But she would call with different numbers, so I had to answer. "Can you stop calling? We're already divorced. If it's about getting the divorce certificate, you can text me. Your son is injured. Luke Phillips took him go-karting and he got hurt. The child is in a lot of pain and keeps asking for you. If he's hurt, take him to the doctor." "What are you calling me for? I can't heal him." Michelle Moreau said in disbelief, "He's the son you've been taking care of for 6 years. How can you say such cold-blooded things?" I found it funny. Cold-blooded? I'm just fulfilling your wishes, fulfilling his wishes. Didn't he say he didn't like me and wanted his Uncle Luke to be his dad? Now that his leg is injured, he should go find his new dad. Why is he looking for me? And don't you think you and your son are very funny? When I was there, you hated me to the extreme. Now that I've made room, you're calling me every other day. Uncle, come look at my puzzle. I finished it. Cody held up his finished puzzle for me to see. Suddenly, the phone was taken by Ethan Chow. His voice was full of anger and disbelief. Dad, I don't care. You're my dad. I won't let anyone take you away. You can only play puzzles with me. I used to only play puzzles with him, but he said they were childish and not as fun as video games. Video games are bad for the eyes, so I always forbade him from playing them. Now he wants to play with me again, but I don't consider him my son anymore. I turned my head and smiled at Cody. Wow, great job. Cody is so amazing. Today, I'll reward you with some baked chicken wings. Dad, do you really not like me anymore and like that guy instead? I interrupted him. I really don't like you anymore. You're not worth my liking. Go find your favorite Uncle Luke. I'm not your dad anymore. After speaking, I hung up the phone. Days passed peacefully like this. The next time I saw Michelle Moreau was at my door. Cody and I had just come out of the elevator when we saw her, and she was holding Ethan Chow's hand next to her. Michelle Moreau started speaking in a way that made me want to hit her. She said, "Have you calmed down? If you have, quickly pack your things and come back with me." She was really self-righteous, still thinking that I was just throwing a tantrum. I laughed in anger. Michelle Moreau, I've said it many times. I really don't want to be with you anymore. I've had enough of this life. You've signed the divorce agreement too. This dragging on and on really doesn't suit your style. I know it's because of what happened that day when I punished you. I'm humbling myself and apologizing to you now, okay? I chuckled. You're thinking too much. What happened that day was just a trigger. That's not the point. The point is that I don't want to live with you anymore. And just a reminder, that's not how you apologize. After speaking, I walked past them to open the door. Just as I was about to enter, Ethan Chow suddenly hugged my leg and looked up at me with pleading eyes. Dad, are you really no T going to take me anymore? I nodded. Don't you like Uncle Luke more? He whispered. I don't like him anymore. I didn't answer him and led Cody into the home. Michelle Moreau followed in as a matter of course. You're living in a place like this? I really don't know what you're thinking. You're not living in a nice big villa and running to a place where you can't even stretch your legs. My patience was exhausted, and I said impatiently, Michelle Moreau, are you deaf? We're already divorced. You're entering someone else's home without the owner's permission. That's called trespassing. Get out. She still thought I was just throwing a tantrum and didn't leave, so I had to trouble the property management to invite her and Ethan Chow out. The next morning, I went to workplace, but I saw her waiting for me at the entrance of the neighborhood garage. I didn't want to pay attention to her, but my car was blocked by her car. She rolled down the car window. Let's talk about the divorce. I needed to make a clean break, otherwise, this constant entanglement would really affect my mood. We chose the nearest coffee shop. I sat across from her and said coldly, what do you want to talk about? Have you not been eating properly lately? You've lost some weight. I paused. Don't say irrelevant things. We're only talking about the divorce. Her face visibly turned ugly. Are you really determined to divorce me? What about our son? Don't bring up these repeated topics. It was all agreed upon that day. You have custody, and I don't need visitation rights. He's the child you've been taking care of for 6 years. Are you really just going to watch him become a child without a father? I sneered. How will he be without a father? Luke Phillips can be his dad. Anyway, Ethan Chow likes him, and you like him, so you can be happy too. Her lips were pursed into a straight line, and she paused before saying, don't misunderstand. Luke Phillips and I are innocent. It's not what you think. Stop pretending like you're very reluctant to let me go, trying to win me back here. It's disgusting to watch. Her eyebrows furrowed, and she defended herself. I really didn't want to divorce you. Yes, she really didn't want to divorce me. How could she let go of a free babysitter? The reason why she signed that divorce agreement without hesitation was that she was sure that I was throwing a tantrum because of what happened that day. When I calmed down and thought clearly, I would realize that I couldn't bear to be without her and my son and would compromise and turn back for their sake. If that didn't work, I would turn back for the sake of my brother. At that time, she would be able to completely control me, and maybe even mock me for only lasting a few days before coming to beg for reconciliation. Unfortunately, she was wrong. She was too confident. I had completely saved up enough disappointment. As for the kindness I owed my brother, I would explain it to him properly when I saw him in the afterlife. I thought he would understand me. She was still explaining endlessly, but I didn't listen to a word. Okay, we've reached a consensus. I'll assume you understood what I meant. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. I've made an appointment to get the divorce certificate at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. I hope you'll be there on time. Translation error for segment 2, 500, model API error, 500.